Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 11th, 2023 BOCC meeting. Would you all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, gentlemen, the first thing we have on our agenda are minutes. Do we have any additions or corrections?
No. I don't either. I move to approve the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, held on April 4th, 2023, as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County, April 4th, 2023. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have a 9 o'clock public hearing. Planning and zoning, come on down. Ms. Stone, if you'd like to come forward.
Morning.
Good morning. Okay, Melinda.
Administrator Anderson,
Here.
Attorney McLaren,
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Here.
Commissioner Candelaria,
Here.
Commissioner Copenhaver.
Here.
Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for review and determination of a proposed high-impact special use permit application and commercial planned unit development amendment and COMZ rezoning application submitted by Daren and Kathy Stone for the existing Westview RV Park on property located at 12092 Highway 145, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 25.44 acres, more or less, located north of Road M, east of Highway 145, situated in Section 7, Township 36 North, Range 15 West, N.M.P.M. The hearing will be held Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 9 a.m. in the Commissioner's Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main Street, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office online service at https://co-montezuma-co.community.com/public/home. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated this 14th day of March, 2023. Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023.
Okay, thank you, Melinda. All right, Don, would you give us an overview on this one?
Sure. The Stones are looking to amend their commercial PUD for their RV park, the Westview RV Park, and also applying for a high-impact permit, special use permit that was not presented in 2017, I believe it was, with the original PUD application and public hearing process. Also, the property still zoned ARES, so we'll get that changed to commercial zoning. Just trying to clean up some stuff from the past. Their vested rights have expired on the PUD, and they would like to amend that to add couple more cabin spots, some park model spots. Their original PUD had all the cabins but 2 across the south, and actually they're going in on the northwest corner, so that'll be depicted on the amended plat, and then just procuring their rights moving forward for adding the additional spaces and cabins.
Okay, so the permit says 6 more RV spaces and 10 more cabins? No? Or that's total?
We have 10 right now, sorry. We have 10 right now, cabins, and 93 spaces. We were originally permitted for 119 based on RV spaces and cabins. We just didn't get it all built out yet.
Sure.
So we still want that option to do that if we choose to.
So So just what you originally had
Yes.
requested, the 2015?
Right.
Or,
And everything was based on 119, the CDOT permit, the sewer was designed for that, everything was.
okay. Questions, gentlemen?
No, setbacks are in line.
Yes.
Commissioner?
So you have, the parts you haven't built, is that, where are they at?
Well, right now, if we build more cabins, we plan on putting 2 more up where the cabins are. And then with more RV spaces, we'll either go up across the top or over in some overflow parking we have on the south side.
So is that just storage stuff there that's on the south side now?
Yeah, all of that, all the perimeters are just kind of overflow parking. Some of our leach fields are in a little bit of it, so.
But that was already in the original design to do that. That's where you were,
Actually, the original design had those spaces, let me see, further to the west, but the city has a irrigation, or a city water main line that goes through there, so we avoided that. And that's why we come up with that park area that's further to the west, which then we weren't able to put those spaces in there. So we want to put them somewhere else. We just didn't want to go around that main city line.
okay.
So basically, we're just cleaning this up and finishing what should have been done in the past.
Right, yeah, because their
So-
vested rights expired and the cabin location was depicted along the south.
Yep.
With only 2 on the northwest, so this will just update that and procure their rights for full build
To,
out.
to finish the build-out, because the system has already been designed for the capacity of it
Yes.
at the 119?
Yes.
Okay.
Don,
Designed for 120, but I think somewhere in there it said 119. I don't know what happened. but
119 is what I read.
and we're fine with that.
Don, do you see any significant adverse impacts to neighboring properties coming from this?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. CDOT's access permits, was executed, when the park was started, so nothing's changed there. No, there's no.
Well,
no
just in
impacts.
looking at this map, it doesn't look like there's any residences right on time. I mean, super close.
I mean, there are residences there, but they're not,
Nothing's
Not
very
serious.
There's
close
some
at
down
all.
Road M.
Yep.
Across the fence, not super close, but that's about the closest that there is.
Okay. And I know this goes without saying, but all the utilities are available, and
Yes,
I just want to be sure we get a complete record here.
yes.
Yeah, full infrastructure's in place currently.
Everything's in conformity with the code from your perspective, Don?
Correct.
Okay.
planning and zoning?
They were unanimous to recommend it for approval.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
Commissioner, anything else?
I don't have anything
Okay.
else.
Well, at this point in time, I will open this public hearing up to public comment. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this application, please come forward to the podium. State your name and address for the record, and you may address the board at this time. Okay, seeing no public comment, I'll close the public comment session of this meeting. I'll bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioners, do you have any other questions?
I do not.
I don't see any problem with it.
I have a comment, not necessarily a question, but I do want to commend you guys. I think it's been a great addition to the community. It's a nice park. It's well done. I wish, I wish we were able to deal with a lot of things in this fashion that were straightforward and easy to deal with. However, we don't have that luxury. But I do want to commend you on a great job done.
It's been fun.
All right.
Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you guys.
Like Jim said, it's a great addition out there.
Yeah. It's been really good.
Yeah.
All of our people come back every year and more, and they really like it.
Except for that guy that shows up in the summer and tends to run things out there, that Randolph guy. I don't know.
I have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
I move to approve this high-impact special use permit application and commercial plan unit development amendment and commercials rezoning application submitted by Daren and Kathy Stone for the existing Westview RV Park on property located at 12092 Highway 145, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 25.44 acres.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proposed high-impact special use permit application and commercial planned unit development amendment and commercial rezoning application submitted by Daren and Kathy Stone for the existing Westview RV Park on property located at 12092 Highway 145, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 25.44 acres more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there you go, ma'am.
Thank you, guys.
Motion carries. Have a great day. Okay, it is now 9:10 and we have another scheduled public hearing. Do we have the applicants
They
here?
just walked in.
Okay, all right, perfect. Would you guys come on down? Okay, Melinda, would you call the roll, please?
Administrator Anderson,
Here.
Attorney McLaren,
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay,
Here.
Commissioner Candelaria,
Here?
Commissioner Copenhaver.
Here.
Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for review and determination of a proposed high-impact special use permit application submitted by Smith's Materials LLC, agent Nathan Barton, on property located at 22186 Highway 145, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 50 acres more or less, located east and west of Highway 145, situated in Section 22, Township 38 North, Range 14 West, N.M.P.M. The hearing will be held Tuesday, April 11th, 2023, at 9:10 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office online services at https://co-montezuma-co.smartgovcommunity.com/public/home. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated this 14th day of March, 2023. Kim Purcell, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, March 29th, 2023.
All right, thank you, Melinda. Okay, Don, would you give us an overview on this one?
Sure. So this is the old line camp gravel pit up on 145. They originally had a high-impact permit that had a 5-year lifespan on it. It had a termination date. It was issued in '02. It was reapproved to extend for another 5 years in '07, and then it actually expired in 2012. So the property went through the IRS tax sale or auction or whatever you call it anyway. Grant Smith Materials, they picked up the property, and so they are applying for a high impact permit, special use permit. Their mining claim and mining permits through the state never did expire. Those are still in place. They're going through the process of getting those permits changed over to their name, and just basically going back into the same pit on this drawing, and then the next drawing kind of shows the extent of what it'll be the separate map, Travis. They've got the outfall on the southeast corner into the river from the detention ponds. That's the previously excavated area, and their plan is to start final mitigation there on the south. And then progress to the north. They're only allowed a little over 19 acres open at one time per CDOT's permit. I believe the state has roughly a 20-acre open pit area at one time stipulation as well. They're showing the extents of where they would mine. Everything on the east there in the trees, they do not plan to disturb. They have to be a minimum of 100 feet from the river anyway, but they don't want to disturb the wooded area, as well as on the north. There's roughly 1,000-foot buffer full of trees to the next property owner. They'll also have they'll take their overburden and build a berm along 145 from the existing access road north. But that kind of shows the extent of what their plan is moving forward. There's not a time frame stipulated, but I can let Nathan Barton, the project engineer, design engineer, explain more of the details, but that's basically what we're looking at.
Okay.
And
All right,
we're
thank
not
you.
looking for a time limit on it. With the mitigation factors of one other item is there at the access road, building berms on each side and keeping the crusher centralized on the property. That way the noise mitigation north and south is minimalized.
So why was there ever a time limit put on it in the beginning? I don't know if you can answer that, but Commissioner, I'll look
I
to you.
think
Maybe
the
you
other
can
two
answer that.
commissioners could feed more backstory
I'm just
into it. but-
curious. I mean,
I don't remember. I think it was put on there because that's when they thought they would exhaust the minerals in there.
That was the original, and Nathan could elaborate on that. But at full production, at the time that Mountain Gravel was paving or building roads somewhere, they figured in 5 years they would have it all mined out.
Gotcha.
But as things changed, they didn't need the materials, so that's as far as they got. It's been being used to haul material from Hay Camp Pit down there and wash it there on that site. So it's been being utilized. It's just nobody knew that the
it's just
permits expired.
being utilized as a wash plant, so you're not necessarily mining it at this point in time.
No, sir, but we're gonna
Gotcha.
try to start. We're gonna try to start doing our own concrete, rock, and
Yeah.
sand.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions right now?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, then I'll give you the opportunity, Mr. Smith or Mr. Barton, whoever wants to talk, and if
If I
you,
may, again, to
can I
refresh.
get you to pull that mic?
Nathan Barton, Wasteline Inc., the agent for this. Address is P.O. Box 88, Cortez. This was done back in 2001 and 2002, and one of the main reasons we had a tremendous number of objectors at that time that claimed literally that we would kill the birds, the ducks flying over, that we would poison the river, and therefore killed Jack because Errol hated his cousin, and a lot of other claims that included going to court against the Army Corps of Engineers because the Corps said that we did not need to have a permit because we were at least 100 feet away from the river. And so that was the reason that the commissioners, or one of the reasons the commissioners applied that 5-year renewal. And then another 5-year renewal was granted, and we had thought that in 2012 that we had been given a without limit on time, because by that time, as Don explained, the amount of production had reduced greatly, and some of the projects were being supplied by other locations. However, this operation has been in existence now for over 20 years. It has provided hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million or more tons of material, of which virtually every pound of it has been used in Montezuma County. It's an important asset. With the change of ownership from Val to the Smiths, it allows that with your approval to go ahead and expand and continue to operate, hopefully for at least another 20 years, to provide the quality of material, sand and gravel that we need. Now with the ownership of the land and the ownership of the state mining and reclamation permit, this provides for smoother operations. The Smiths are well-established local business that have demonstrated they care for their land and for their clients, for their customers, as well as for their own people and for the community as a whole. And I think this makes sense to go ahead and both renew this and extend it indefinitely. Reclamation is and has been underway. The ponds themselves are an important part of reclamation. The water rights come with the land and are therefore available to provide for those ponds. Those ponds were designed to be shaped in an unusual manner at the request of the county commissioners in order to avoid the nice rectangular lagoon-looking ponds that we have in other locations along the valley. And that will continue to be the case with what is developed. Assuming that you all approve it, the intent is to go ahead, number one, transfer the permit from Stone, Sand, and Gravel, the state permit from Stone, Sand, and Gravel over to Smith's Materials, and then to request an amendment that would expand the two areas that are shown on the map, expand to include the 9.9 acres and then the 9.0 acres further north, to allow those also to be developed as a series of ponds while we excavate the materials. And as Don mentioned, the intent is to keep the crushing and screening plant in a central location to minimize not just the impacts to the north and south, but anybody that might be using the national forest lands to the east and west. There is negotiation or planning for feasibility as whether or not there's a possibility of trading land from the Forest Service to the Smiths, an exchange of land to allow that area west of Highway 145 to be transferred to the Forest Service, and the area between the river and the property there on the west bank of the river to be transferred, but we do not plan to mine those areas. Those areas would continue to be in trees. It would simply simplify management for the Forest Service and for us, but that is something that is now being discussed with the Forest Service, and not even preliminary applications have been filed. We want to make sure you're aware of that so that if there's any concerns, issues that you all want particularly to be addressed, that they can be, and if it's something that you do not want unless certain commitments are made, then so that we can know that and we can advise the Forest Service of that.
Okay. Mr. Smith, or any of you guys, do you have anything else to add before I open this up?
At our prior meeting with planning and zoning, we really got to hear the feedback from the neighbors from the north and from the south. And after discussing with them, I think we have a really good plan to work well with both the neighbors and to make it feasible for us. Where we got hours of operation down, weekend stuff, everything was kind of set forth, and we think we can really be a good neighbor. And it's just going to help us with the concrete, being able to do our sand and rock right there. And I mean, it's a good part of the community. We supply a lot of concrete.
Mhm.
And I think we have a good plan going forward.
Okay. Go
And
ahead,
if I
Mr.
may
Burke.
add just a couple
Sure.
more things, Mr. Chairman. In the 20-plus years now that's been operated by Triad Western or Four Corners, and then by Stone, Sand, and Gravel, to our knowledge, there has never been a complaint made as far as noise, dust, excessive water use, flooding, traffic, anything else. We understand that there is always a price to pay when it comes to traffic and vehicles pulling out and things like that, but there's been no accidents, there's been no injuries, and indeed, the previous operators have been very good neighbors, and I believe that the Smiths will be even better neighbors.
Okay. Well, without any questions, Commissioner, I will then open this application up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this application, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and you may address the board at this time. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment session of this, and I will bring it back to the commissioners. Gentlemen.
Well, the last time somebody opened this up for public comment, we were 3 meetings in. Full afternoons for 3 meetings. And finally ended up approving this. So these gentlemen have done a really good job, and the previous owners have done a wonderful job, so I have nothing further.
Okay. Commissioner?
There has been some complaints over the years, and Kathy can verify that. It's mostly about weeds and that sort of thing, and the dust. I mean, that happened when we were in here before. We heard those complaints before, so it's not like there hasn't been complaints about it, because there has. And there is with every one of these type of operations that's in the county. I don't think there are any of them that don't have some complaints about something. But I don't have any problem with the project. We need the sand and gravel. People just keep building more roads and bigger houses and demanding more concrete. We got to supply it somewhere, and the gravel's where it's at. We got to mine it where it's at. It's not like you can pick and choose where that's at. So we got to have it from somewhere. And I guess the only question I have is there any issue with changing this permit over into your name from the Stones? Kathy? Okay.
And that's all done through the state anyway, so as far as, I really can't open it back up to public comment, sorry. Otherwise, I'm way out of my means of a public hearing. So, yeah, I mean, it makes logical sense if you guys can work something out with the Forest Service to do your swap or trade. It doesn't necessarily pose any problems to us as the county. I mean, the highway divides your property right now, so it makes logical sense to keep it all on one side and keep theirs on the other side. So good luck with that negotiation. I hope it works out for you. Secondly, I kind of want to echo a little bit more of what Commissioner Copenhaver has stated. And I'm sure that we all get complaints on these types of things, but just to remind everybody, if it's not grown, if it's not mined, or if it's not extracted, it really doesn't exist. Think about what's on your body. Think about what you drove in here on. Think about what we're sitting on. It all starts with a product that comes from Mother Earth. And I know that these are not probably the most sexy projects that people want to see. However, they're valuable and they're needed. I think the display over the last 20 years has been a good display. Your mitigation measures of a berm and trying to negotiate with the Forest Service is just a step, to show that and to expound on it. And, again, I believe that even though they're not sexy projects, they're absolutely valuable and critical to the needs of our community and to every community. So that's all that I have to say. Commissioner, what is your pleasure?
Let me
Sorry.
give you a planning and zoning. They were unanimous to recommend it for approval. They did have some conditions for you to consider.
Okay.
One was, as discussed, was the hours of operation, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, of actual mining. Of course, equipment and stuff will be started up earlier than that. But 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, but allowing them for load out of materials, just a loader and dump trucks, as in like right now when everybody's driveways are bottomless and people needing rock. They didn't see a problem with that without the actual mining and crusher operating on Saturdays. The other was that the North Tree area that was depicted there, that 1,000-foot buffer, remain, and that they stay in good standing with the CDOT's access permit.
So I have a question then. Why was the time frame of just 8 to 5 put on there? Was that something that you gentlemen asked for, or was it just a condition that planning and zoning came up with? And if so, why did they come up with the hours of operation from 8 to 5?
Just as a noise mitigation factor for
Wasn't
the
that in
surrounding.
Original permit, I think, if I remember right.
The original permit did not allow any work on weekends.
Yeah.
I believe it was 8 to 5.
Okay. So the
kind of-
conditions basically haven't changed then?
No.
Okay.
And I don't think after talking with them, no, we want to stay 8 to 5. Then like I said, on Saturday, a half a day to a full day, depending on what, we might have to have a loader and dump trucks there.
Sure.
But no crushing, nothing, and nothing on Sundays.
So just the mining operations, just 8 to 5 on Monday through Friday?
Right.
Okay.
And they figured they'd probably be starting equipment up, 6:30 or 7, maintenance and all that, but not the mining crushing operation.
Okay. And that's workable to you all?
Yes.
Okay.
I would so move we approve the proposed high-impact special use permit application submitted by Smith's Material LLC, agent Nathan Barton, property located at 22186 Highway 145 Dolores, contingent upon the contingencies proposed by the P&Z Commission.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proposed high-impact special use permit application submitted by Smith Materials LLC, agent Nathan Barton, on property located at 22186 Highway 145 Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 50 acres, more or less, with 2 conditions. 1, the 1,000-foot buffer zone remaining to the north, and hours of operation for the mining operation from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this public hearing is closed. Gentlemen, you are approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Not a room full of
Oh, thank you guys very much. Oh, you bet. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Hello.
Go back, would you?
Okay, looks like you have one more item, at least, Don?
Yeah, we did not receive that Mylar back in our office from last week, so we do not have that for signature, so,
So we'll move that to next week. Or,
well, whenever. I don't-
TBD.
Yeah, TBD, whenever we actually get it.
okay, very good. Do you have anything else to discuss?
Just more of the same, nothing specifically right now.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, do you have anything for Don?
No, I don't.
I guess one thing to add, in meeting with our IHOP grant, planning grant through DOLA, our consultants were here last week. We met with them. They met with each of the municipalities. We all met together, basically concentrating on the 1 mile zone of influence around each town of Dolores, Mancos, Cortez. I guess just reiterating that the county does not, we are not trying to oversee any of their developments. Basically, they need to come up with their own ideas of development in that 1 mile zone, or be it nothing on the west of Cortez and more on the east, but so that the county has some idea of what development they're looking at, wanting, just so we can kind of guide people accordingly when they're trying to develop or starting development right on the city limit boundaries.
Any questions on that, gentlemen?
No.
I mean, you're kind of dealing with that more than any of us right
Yeah,
now
I
with
just
the
heard
city.
some comments at their P&Z meeting.
Yeah, there's kind of been, I guess, from what the consultant said, that they kind of feel like the county's just steamrolling right past them. But if we don't know their information and their plan,
Yeah,
we let people that own the property there develop what and how they are trying to develop per our land use code. So we don't mind working with the municipalities, but if we don't have any information or guidelines to go by, then it's kind of tough for us to guess and direct. So we've requested that they work on that on their end so that we can work with them on our end.
Okay.
Especially in Mancus too. I mean, there's limited water, limited space.
Mancus is a unique character all of its own, specifically because of water.
Oh yeah.
The natural resource water. They really don't have any more of the natural resource to be
Right.
able to expand.
So there's not
so
really-
much. I mean, I don't.
And, you know,
But there are
surrounded
ways
by-
to get it.
Surrounded by conservation easements, it makes it tough to expand out.
Yeah, there's a larger acre parcel just northwest of town that's up for sale, and we've had several phone calls. And when I direct them to CDOT and water, I haven't heard back from them because you're not going to be able to develop anything substantial there.
Not at this point in time.
No. And also the town's been involved because the property access road goes through the north end of the town limits. So it's like the trifecta. They got to go through before they get back with our department. Yeah, we're happy to refer them to the municipalities to get their input, their information, and coordinate that. So hopefully in the next near future that can be developed, and then we have better guidance on what they want to do with their zones of influence. If they want to start annexing sometime now or in the future, at least there's an idea and a guideline.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up, we have our regular public comment session, and the Board of Montezuma County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time to others. And with that, the public comment session of this meeting is open. Okay, seeing none, we're going to go straight down to our department reports. And first off, we have our vehicle maintenance, Mr. Higman, sitting all the way in the back. Come on down.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I don't have a lot. We sold all those vehicles on public surplus. That was all divided out amongst departments because some were social services, some were landfill, some were road department. So those were all divided out, but we did well on those. Those are all picked up and gone now, so those are out of our yard over there at least, so that's a good thing. I don't know how much you guys know about the new KIP van that's being bought through the grant. We bought a new KIP van. There was some money left in the grant from last year, and they approved it to buy a new four-wheel drive van for the KIP program because they drove around getting stuck all winter long. So we ended up
Must be the
So-
CIP program.
the crisis
Yeah.
intervention program, yeah. So we ended up buying a new four-wheel drive van for them, and I went to Denver yesterday and transferred it from the dealership over to an upfitter to get a table and some chairs and benches and stuff put in to work on upfitting that, so, that should be coming up, but, probably another month of upfit on that, and then you'll see a new van running around. It doesn't really have any markings, so.
So then we'll put that in public surplus and get rid of that van.
I assume, I don't really know what we'll do with that. I don't know how that was exactly bought.
It was, originally we set up that program, we put $300,000 of our own money into it. Make us, Cortez, Dolores, everybody had a a portion of that to start the program, and then since then, it's been grant funded up until now. So I want to say that that would be the property of Montezuma County. I'm sure it's titled that way.
It is definitely titled that way, but there was some questions about, once you sold it, where the money would go to. If that would all go back to Montezuma County, or does that have to be split between everybody that put in the money? I don't really know how the finances that work, so it's something we're gonna have to look at.
Sure.
And I also think there was some discussion about using that for the 4-H club.
Possibly, I mean, I don't know they're always looking for something to haul more people, so I don't know.
What did the conversation with MoCo come out for the 4-H? Because that's kind of where we were leaning.
So the van that MoCo's, I haven't actually talked to MoCo, but the van that they were discussing using is really not. It would actually be better to keep the KIP van and get rid of the MoCo van that they were talking about.
How much upfitting would you have to do in the KIP van, because the back is not?
Just take the table out and put the seat back.
Gotcha.
We still have the seat that we took out of it, and we kind of modified some brackets to make the seat sit in a different direction, but everything is reversible, so you could.
So I guess my question then, is this gonna turn into another 2,000 mile a year vehicle that we're
That would be-
insuring? I struggle with that.
Yeah,
because
that'd absolutely be a discussion for.
we can rent a vehicle for their needs much less than what we can pay for maintenance and insurance and everything else that it costs to keep it. So, yeah, that'll be a further discussion.
We already have a vehicle over at the extension office, so my only thought was that if you could possibly just replace the extension office vehicle with the van and use it for everything.
Further discussion, I
Yeah.
guess, I think what we were trying to do was not add more, we're trying to eliminate.
No, I understand.
So, I realize everybody wants to add one more, but it doesn't make any logical sense
And
to
it needs
have a
to be-
vehicle for 2,000 miles a year.
If a vehicle's gonna be added, it needs to be brought in front of you guys, so I
Yep.
know clearly that number needs to go up, because there's a set number, and it needs to be brought in front of you guys to up that number, so I can keep the same number in our fleet at all times. So that's something I'm trying to work on, getting the number set to where we know what department has every amount of vehicles, and then to get any more vehicles, it has to come to you guys to get that funding approved, because you're right, everybody wants to add one, everybody wants to, and I've been trying to subtract vehicles from the fleet for
We've had
years
this
now.
conversation for 2 years
Oh,
now.
yeah.
You know,
And we have done,
to
we
pull
have,
vehicles, we've tried to minimize the cost, because if you guys are not aware of this, insurance rates keep rising every year. And in this county, they are tremendous. And to just keep adding just doesn't make any sense, specifically for anything under 10,000 miles a year, in my opinion. But we can rent a vehicle for a week if we have to, much less than we can just keeping and adding vehicles.
the full fleet came in to try to up those miles on those vehicles and have something that everybody can use. And it's actually working out fairly well after we've got the kinks worked out. That those vehicles are checked out all the time, and they're actually getting mileage put on them. And people that didn't have vehicles or were having to use their personal vehicles for county use can now check those pool cars out and use them. So it's working pretty well, the 4 vehicles we have in the pool. But
And the KIP van was not brought in front of us unless I've slept.
it wasn't, it was through social services, the funding and the grants, everything runs through, it ran through them. So it was something that didn't need to be technically brought in front of you guys, it's just something you're gonna be seeing. You're gonna see it out there coming this way. Soon.
How many miles does Extension put on a vehicle?
They're in that 5,000 mile range most of the time every year.
Super low. And this will be specific for just moving passengers to back and forth to their state, or I think Emily said a few times a year.
Yeah.
So,
But that MoCo van that they're talking about using is absolutely not something I would take to Denver. It's just not.
Okay,
That van needs to go away.
okay.
had brake issues. We got the brake issues fixed, but every single time, it's one of those that sits for months on end. Every time you go to use it, something else is broken on it. It just needs to,
I don't wanna put a load of kids in a van that has brake issues.
no. Well, it doesn't have brake
No, and-
issues anymore. We
And
fixed the
here-
brake issues, but
Here again, we can rent
Right.
something for a week at a time and not have all of this stuff sitting around.
and realistically, depending on when they go, the Suburban will haul quite a few people. I just don't know that it will haul what they need. But just in the discussions of that van, I wouldn't use that van for
Okay,
that purpose.
all right.
Are there vans available for rent in this area? I mean,
I couldn't tell you. I don't know what Enterprise, I've never seen one parked over there, what Enterprise and the rental car
I
companies
think it's
have,
just a
but-
matter of reaching out. If you rented 2 Suburbans, you could probably get,
Well, we have 4 pool vehicles, so
Yeah.
if it exceeds the Suburban, take the Suburban and the Equinox. I mean, it's
When
only
we're-
a couple weeks a year.
When we leased the vans before, we had to get them out of Durango.
Okay.
okay.
so we have options. It's just a matter of how many kids do they really have going is the only way we can answer that question.
always made the Suburban work, but if they need a bus, definitely leasing something for, or renting something for the week would be the way to go over the MoCo bus.
Okay,
So,
all
that's
right.
just my opinion on that. The sheriff's units, they finally, the first 3 have gone into the outfitter, so we should be seeing those in hopefully the next month. We'll be seeing some new sheriff vehicles around. And that's about the extent of what I had.
Okay,
I seen a city unit had somebody pulled over yesterday and it didn't have any markings on it at all.
There's, yeah, my wife and I have discussed that, whether if there's, the material for marking them is thin or if it's just an undercover. Because it's kind of an undercover because it has the lights on top, so it's not, I don't know. There's 2 of those.
If that pulled me over, I'd be pretty suspicious if that was a
Yeah.
real police officer or not.
Yeah. So, but other than that, any other questions?
I still need to get with you on the housing authority. I
Yeah.
just ran out of time, but I will get with you.
And is that a Montezuma County purchase, or is that just
No,
they
it'll
need
be-
help finding it?
Montezuma County Housing Authority. So as I sit on that board also, it'll be their own specific funds, just help finding it.
Okay.
I've been looking to try and help them, but here again, that's just a time consumption that I've been struggling with. And we have time, it's not urgent.
Yeah, and it is, finding new vehicles it consumes a lot of time, but they're out there.
I'll get with you.
Okay.
All right, thank you,
Sounds good.
Shane.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Mr. McLean, our IT.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
Just a couple updates. Still working on broadband. I'm thinking today is when we're supposed to hear about the NTIA funding, whether or not we got it. We sent the waiver off.
Yeah.
All the 5 did. So now we're just waiting patiently, and we're all feeling pretty positive about it. We've got a lot of good feedback from it. So I'm also working with the CSU Extension broadband portion, along with Neo Connect, who is a design firm. It looks like we're going to be able to tap into some of the design money without having to put any expenses out of our county budget. So that's good news. So we'll be working on that. That's for last mile bead stuff. So the only other thing I really have at the moment is I got the report back from the cybersecurity web check thing. Wasn't anything I didn't expect, but I really needed to see it in writing and exactly where the problems were. We have a few things that I have to address that I need to get on that could cause a problem down the road. Most of it has to do with stuff with SQL databases, and I didn't send it to you because it would have made no sense. It's 80 pages of open ports, and so, and the summary is like our Cassell server, I need to get the SQL updated on it. All of our Tyler servers, that's the Treasure app, Clerk app, Assessor servers, they all have some really old versions of Apache. Now, this is not something I maintain. I've already been in contact with Tyler because they have to update them. The GIS server's got a couple of issues. Doug and I have been in contact over how we're gonna address that. My Exchange server, obviously, that's always the weakest point. That's the email server. So next weekend, I'll be pushing a major update on it and then crossing my fingers it doesn't crash everything. But most of it really is not unexpected. It's just now I know for sure what we have to address, and a lot of it's not gonna be terribly cumbersome. There could be some cost involved with the SQL side of things if I have to purchase and upgrade to SQL. There's just no way around that. We have to stay on it with these holes. But other than that, it looks okay. I mean, we're not dying. We're not gonna get hacked into tomorrow, but I do need to get a grip on it, so that's kind of where we're at.
Okay,
Any
Questions?
questions?
No.
okay. Keep
Adam?
us posted on the grant.
I will. As
Okay,
soon as I know, I'll let everybody know,
all right,
hopefully today.
all right. Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Roth. Oh, yeah.
Our new secure system here will let me in here. And I'm gonna do Windows K. And I'm gonna connect. Let's see, is there something with the displays here? Are we on a dual display? Connected. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay, all right. I guess I'm on dual display mode, and then we'll try and do this here this way. Okay. So Nolan and I are just going to take a couple minutes to demonstrate a couple of projects we've been working on. Really, Nolan's been working on this over the past month, what he's going to be working on, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about a project I've been working on, and this is something that Commissioner Candelaria was in discussion with the assessor, and the goal was to extract more data from the assessor's database so that we could view what they have in their database in a visual sense, so that we can hope to capture more of the properties, residences, outbuildings, and review those and get as much added to the assessor system as possible. Part of this discussion obviously is the frequency of aerial imagery, and I did speak with, there's two essentially off-the-shelf imagery providers. We purchased some 2021 imagery from one of them here about a year and a half ago, and they're both, it's good that we have two, they're competitors. It looks like at least one of those will be flying imagery later this year, and it will be available. And what my suggestion is that I'll be bringing a budget number to you. Hopefully we can get some of that imagery purchased and have this map refined. I've not showed this to Leslie yet. My next step is to refine it, show it to her here later this week, and then have a really functional map where once we get new imagery, we can review the whole county, have
between the GIS staff and the assessors and appraiser staff, review the county, make sure that we have everything flagged at that time once we get that imagery, and have a quick turnaround as far as that goes, because imagery is quite useful for picking things up. So I just wanted to just give a really quick demo on essentially how this works. If I can find my mouse over here. Having a hard time. Okay, there we go. So we have a few different things going on here. This is that mobile home park north of town here on Road 28. And you can see one thing that we never had before is we're able to view the total building information here. So on this property in particular, we have, as you can see, 1 residence, we have 32 mobile accounts, we have 1 outbuilding, and then we have something called an ex-fob residence. And that's probably what that is it's probably 32 different mobile home hookups is probably what that value is. It's a little hard the way that database is built to really extract this information. It's in the most logical way. You can also see this residence. The latest residence we have on this property is, I can't read that, 1980, 1990. We have another tool that I added, and there's going to be some refinement and things that we need to probably do. We have this address point. And so I made a special marker here, this little bullseye symbol. If we have an address that's assigned and there's no improved value showing in the assessor system, it will kind of highlight that, and it will, kind of flag us in to, is what's going on here. And this is one I'll have to, and there may be a very good reason in their database why it's not pulling up, but this is something we'll have to go over with Leslie, because if you click on this parcel and you open it up, indeed we are seeing land-only values on this. So mostly this tool is just to hope, in a visual sense, find areas where there might be some areas that we can find things that are not being assessed or appraised. So we have number of buildings. We also have another layer that can be turned on for sales and value information. And so we're seeing a summary of the sales price, the assessed value, and the improvements value in dollar figures. And so, maybe zoom to one other place. I don't want to take too much time, but this is the general idea here. Yeah, so this is actually, this is one I highlighted just as I was generally doing my work. I really didn't spend a lot of time looking around, but this one was interesting. This has improvements value and sales value information, but if we turn on the number of buildings, we see total residences of 3, and we can see the GIS only has 2. So this is something that we can use to say, hey, we're probably missing something. Something's probably been picked up in the past 2 years since this imagery was available. And indeed, if you look at this property right here, they do have 3 residentials under the R account, real property account of this. And we need to go pick one up, GIS does, and probably add an address to this. And so one more, and then I'll hand this over to Nolan. Let's look at, again, this is one, and these are our address notes when you see this. This is something that that we need to be really diligent about when we assign an address, we assign why we're assigning that address as part of the process with planning. So this is a new single-family residence for 2021. Road impact fees have been paid. And then if you look at, there is no label on this, which means that there has not been a residential value picked up on this. According to the imagery, if you look at it, then it looks like there is a foundation being put in. So has it been completed or not? I guess we don't really know until there's a site visit done on that property. And then I think similarly up on this property here, we have, we're showing one residence and two ex-fob residences, and this is another issue where, you know, GIS could pick something up. What's going on here? Why do they show three, and we're only showing one house, one address? So if we look at this really quickly here, we can see that they have two, what they're calling small bunk houses here, of 336 square feet. So, so whatever's going on there, it looks like something that we need to improve in our mapping to identify some more residences there. So this is meant to be a two-way thing. So this will be a conversation with Leslie and the assessors. So hopefully we have an open communication as far as the mapping being correct and their system being correct, and the communication between those systems.
So I have a question for you, Doug. And this was brought up at a NACO meeting this week, and I sent the question to Travis to ask you, but Eagle View is giving a presentation of some of the software that they have, and it's not just an orthogonal view, it actually depicts it so that you can actually see what that view is. Google Earth is not necessarily up to date like most of the rest of the imaging, but it saves us a lot of time from having to send somebody out there on everything to view it. So I didn't know if we were using Eagle View at all, but I also I took a screenshot of it at that presentation, and it might be something worth at least looking at. I don't know if it would be economical or not, or if it's even valuable or not. That would be in your
We've
field.
looked at it. We have purchased it before, twice. Once was a city project that the county chipped into in 2015, and then when we expanded our scope for what we have as our urbanized areas, we also acquired the Eagle View imagery project for the Cortez, Memphis, and Dolores. Essentially, that's what provides our high resolution imagery, and we do have the orthogonal views for that. The reason we had a limited scope for that project is because it would have been well over $100,000 to do the entire county, and I would that would be something to ask Leslie if that's part of her workflow. It's not part of our workflow. It's useful, certainly, but it would have to be something that you would use in your workflow to make it make sense. La Plata County does purchase it. They went into a multi-year agreement with it, and it's just a cost-benefit thing. So, you know, if we can get updated imagery that can basically say, hey, there's a building there, and we can do that for under $20,000, to me, that's a no-brainer. Is it worth to spend another $100,000 to get that side view? It depends on how much development you have going on and whether that process is built into your workflow, essentially in your appraiser's office.
Okay. Questions?
No, looks good.
Here, I'm just.
All right. Yeah, last time I was here, I briefly mentioned I was working with Jim Spratland and his EOC team on setting up a GIS app on how to take disaster, assessment. This one, I created one concerning with a flood, the runoff, and which enables his EOC team to go out and take field data using their phones, using the ArcGIS web app. And right now, here's like a hub of a dashboard that shows of some of the points that he and his team created and took. It's more like a situation report that gives Spratland like a whole generalized view of what's going on within the county. I think he has like 4 people out there taking data under his username. So he can sit in his office and check out areas instead of using, walkie-talkies or cell phone. And it gives you like a spatial view awareness of what's going on. For example, you can check out what's going on in Minkus. I think this was yesterday. You can click on it. Just shows you what's going on. This was, yesterday. Looks like Jim took a photo point of what's going on with the emergency, with the runoff concerning the flood issues. It looks like down trees.
No.
So he can go out there and send a team out there and say,
Beaver
hey,
Dam.
we have a tree blocking the river, so send out a chainsaw crew so people can look at the map real quick and say, okay, well, I know exactly where the location's at, instead of using cell phone and trying to communicate through radio. So yeah, just as like a brief interview, and it gives you like a real-time report of what's going on. I think this was today, this morning, which shows you like concerns. There's like a clog culvert starting to form and happen, so it's like a concern right now that Jim took this morning. So just gives like a little map and pinpoint which areas of concerns maybe they can go visit later to see if it might become more of erosion, more of a problem in the future. And also if you scroll to Dolores, of course, there's a lot happening. It shows different observes. Let me show this one. Looks like he took of the high school gymnasium, how it's starting to creep into the floorboards and mess up the foundation. So it's more like an overview map to show and to help emergency awareness and culverts or flooding, just to, just gives like a location of where to help out what's going on with the flood issues. And, just briefly showing this to you, and it's pretty like a real-time view of everything. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, I just thought I'd give you like a quick demo of the dashboard and how it's all set up and how Jim and his team is using it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, and the cool thing about this is that, the data will stay there. It'll be here over time. If we had this in 2019, we had the flooding, we wouldn't be trying to remember where, things got close, where things were happening. We would have a visual on it. We would have a date, time, location stamp. So this is building up something into the future. And this is what a lot of agencies are using this platform going forward. All the emergency response agencies and Forest Service for firefighting. So to be able to have this capability in-house, and Nolan's really taken this on single-handedly, so it's pretty impressive stuff.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. We were talking earlier that it seems like, everybody forgets what happened in 2019, and without this kind of data, they can't even make a plan to move forward. So the data is important. So hopefully they make some plans and move forward. I mean, obviously for us, we know where our points are. so that we know what kind of road work we have to do. And road work is only getting more expensive every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the possibilities are limitless. Talking about, Bonnie using this for her, weed management. It could also be for Rob and road reports. Eventually, it could be for, an 811 type of a system if we ever decided to go that route. All would be similar to this platform, and every department head supervisor could have a dashboard relevant to their workflow. So.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
With that, we'll have Public Lands come down next.
Yeah.
Morning.
How are you all this morning? Good. All right. So what's going on, Derek?
All right, I guess I'm getting started.
Yeah.
So I'm still in my detail with the BLM, so I'll be covering BLM topics today. I assume Dave is going to be covering Forest Service.
Correct.
All right. So what's one of the things I wanted to highlight, if the commission wasn't aware, the BLM has published a proposed public lands rule in the Federal Register. Comments will be due on June 20th, and basically it would direct if finalized land managers to identify landscapes and develop plans for restoration on those landscapes. So it's pretty much in alignment with what we're already doing here in this area with RMRI and CFLRP. The BLM is involved with that as well. It would also, establish a framework for interested parties to pursue restoration on public lands through conservation leasing. So like the Mule Foundation could request a conservation lease from the BLM to do restoration activities on that portion of land. So that's something that it would allow for. And then it would also allow for conservation leasing to be used for compensatory mitigation. So basically, if a company was having an impact due to their activities on a specific piece of land, they could do restoration activities elsewhere to mitigate the impacts on that piece of property that they were working on. And then it will also broaden the use of land health standards beyond the grazing program. Right now, the land health assessments are specific to grazing lands, but it would also apply to all activities on BLM using that assessment method for identifying the land health. And then, like I said, it would direct the BLM to conserve what's already in good shape. So those landscapes that are already functioning well, we would just, that would be the priority to continue to maintain those lands in that status, and then move down from there, where there's opportunity to do so. So, like I said, the comments are due on June 20th. Are there any questions on that?
No. Gerald, do you have anything?
All right, so then the next thing I was going to talk about, all the flooding and things that are going on, that's also, going to result in a potential spill from the dam due to all the water that is going to be flowing into McPhee Reservoir. So we're working with the Dolores Water Conservancy District as well as the Dolores River Boating Advocates for planning purposes for that potential spill. So that planning is going on. So in the event that we do have a spill, that we're ready to, accommodate all the outfitters and then just personal boaters that are more than likely going to show up, in the event that there is a spill. Because of the infrequency of spills that we have in that lower Dolores stretch, it is a very, big draw for folks when we do have a spill. So we're expecting to, have many people wanting to take advantage of that spill should we get one, which we probably will.
Yeah, which we probably will.
Yes. Does everybody have any questions on that?
Just remind them that the road going from 16 down to Bradfield Bridge sounds like it's in a little bit of disarray.
Mhm.
So they might make sure they have the proper vehicle to get down there before they head that direction.
Good point. Yeah, I don't know if Dave's going to talk about that, but I think they're working on that.
Yeah, we had a
All right. All right.
unprecedented request yesterday that was a little bit odd, but anyway.
All right. And then, with the spring warm up and melt off, we may have opportunities for some prescribed burning up in that West Dolores Rim area. So should conditions, be such that we can do some prescribed burning, we'll definitely take advantage of that. I think most of it would be in Dolores County, but you'd still be able to see and have impacts from smoke down here. So we'll keep everybody informed of our spring prescribed burn activities. This will be in La Plata County, but again, with folks coming back and forth and just, in general, Animas City Mountain is another place that we're hoping to do some burning, which is right smack in the middle of Durango. But you may be able to see, smoke from here. So just make you all aware of that. Any questions on prescribed burning? No. And with that, I was in New Mexico this weekend, and on the way back up, just outside of Bloomfield, there was already a brush fire there on the side of the road. Yep. So we're getting in that time of year that, we could even have wildfires. Most of our firefighting resources are in and employed, and we have what we need to, engage with a fire should we get one. So we'll be definitely, I'm sure, working with Jim, in the event that we get something large. But, thankfully, with all the moisture that we've gotten, hopefully we don't have as significant a fire season as maybe we've had in the past. And then the last thing is, at the last meeting, when Ray from Canyon of the Ancients was talking about the Colorado Wild Program, you all had asked a question about, whether or not any of those funds, could go to local governments for roads. And, I'll defer to the state since it's their program, but we were at a meeting about 2 or 3 weeks ago where they talked about that specifically, and some legislation that was going through actually pulled that piece out, and they wanted to take a look at it and study it, and see if that's something that the program could afford to do. So basically, it sounds like that's what they're going to do is take a look at how much revenue they're actually going to be generating, and then assess what they can afford, based on that revenue after that. So at least in the short term, it didn't sound like that would be a possibility, but that it is something that they were looking at. But like I said, I would defer to the state for any kind of specifics there since that's their program. But that's what we heard. And that's all I had, unless you had any specific questions on anything.
I don't.
Oh, I have one question. The fire weather forecast is gonna resume, do you have any idea when? It just says spring, and I don't know. Usually it's around the 15th, isn't it?
It is around the 15th, around the middle of April, that usually kicks back in, but I don't know specifically if that's the case, but
Okay.
I can ask.
That's all I have.
Commissioner? Okay. All right.
For the Forest Service, I'm David Casey. I'm the supervisory forester on the district. Shauna Jensen is our hydrologist. He's actually detailed into Derek's position, but was not available today to come to the meeting, so I'm going to fill in for her. Dovetailing into the fire conversation, snowpack above average. We're expecting an average fire season or a below average fire season at this point. But of course, with climate change and all that stuff, things could change very rapidly and make fuel available. So the thing with a lot of moisture is there's going to be a lot of connective fuels out there, so a lot of grass and flashy fuels that can make things go more than they have been in the past without that available grass connecting fuels. So something to be aware of. People shouldn't get complacent with all this moisture and keep focused on fuels reduction and keep your head on the swivel and make sure you know what's going on around you. Moving into any questions on the fire stuff or any more? Okay. On the timber side, activity continues in Lone Pine, as you're aware, with the road issue. Lone Pine's been active, I think, for about 5 years now, and we're making some headway in that area out there, making some good treatments out there. We've had some tours out there, working with the collaborative a lot on projects out there. We're offering up our last large sale within Lone Pine. Work will continue for, probably the next 7 or 8 years in the Lone Pine landscape. Does everybody kind of know where the Lone Pine EA landscape is?
I think
Okay.
generally,
West end of the district, up above Bradfield, and then it extends all the way over to Salter Y. We did the Salter EA about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, and that'll become active this year, this fiscal year. We sold our first sales in there, and so Salter EA picks up where Salter Y is and extends all the way over to like House Creek area. And so within there, we sold the House Creek sale this year. We haven't figured out who's going to get awarded it yet, and that is in the RMRI Priority Pod 9. So it was a directive to start in there from the collaboratives, and we took that directive and put this sale together. And so that'll be our first sale that we're awarding in Salter, and then we're moving into the lower Carlisle area. Does everybody kind of know where Carlisle is? Just moving more west towards the pump station out there, or the compressor station they call it. And so in that area, we're going to offer up another sale in there. Planning will continue now in Salter. We'll be moving kind of in a westerly direction towards Salter Y, and then kind of doubling back towards the east in 2025, working in the Turkey Knoll area, which is north of Boggy Draw. So up in that area, we're going to start doing some work in there, and then we're looking at starting operations in Boggy Draw somewhere in 2026 or 27. We're going to start planning this year in Boggy Draw, working with the collaboratives as well as some of the user groups out there to establish the mitigation measures that were agreed to within the EA. And so we're just really trying to take a positive approach to the work that's going to happen in Boggy Draw and get ahead of it, and working with the public more to ensure that the interruptions to trails or anything like that are minimal.
so is that the only one in Montezuma County? Everything else is really kind of in Dolores County, correct? I mean,
Yeah, we have
Salter-
activity up Taylor Mesa, which I think is right on the county line, or maybe
It
that
would-
splits right there somewhere. Yeah, and so we have activity going on up there. And then we have activity up in, I can't think of it now. Echo, the Aspen, Groundhog Lake, I'm sorry, the Groundhog area. We have some activity up there, but that's in Dolores County.
Dolores County, yeah.
Yeah, but the trucks are going to come down through Montezuma County, so there is going to be some activity as related to those sales up there. We were recently awarded some money through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and that's going to facilitate some more restoration work within the Salter landscape as well as the Lone Pine landscape. We were also able to grab some of the Inflation Reduction Act funding too, and so we're constantly on the lookout for additional funding that can help keep the restoration work going within the pine vegetative type. The work in the pine is expensive when you start getting into the smaller diameter. That's something we're definitely lacking here in the county is utilization of small diameter material. So that's material that is 9 inches and less. And so we're working on developing some of that industry to support that removal of that material, which is a very important component of the restoration work we're doing out there. We have some things on the horizon. Of course, the Aspen Wallwood Mill opening up their pellet mill, and so we're hoping that's a good outlet for us. We're also working through the Wood for Life program, which is providing wood to indigenous communities, and so that's another outlet for our small diameter material. And so we're constantly on the outlook for utilizing that material. Right now, it's very costly, and so we're hoping these new funds coming in will help prop that industry up, and then we can take advantage of that as the funding kind of slowly teeters off, and that we've propped something up that is sustainable here and continues to work. As far as work in pine, we're looking at moving more east in the Pine Belt, and so getting into some planning in the Haycamp Mesa, starting to do some of our surveys ahead of time, cultural surveys, biological surveys to inform the planning as we move forward. And so that's kind of the activity we have going on in timber. Recreation continues. There's a flurry of activity going on in there. They're also trying to line up funding as well to support their work that they're doing out there. I know there's a lot of work going into the Boggy Draw area. They're working on some reroutes that are some trails that are going to have some impacts as a result of the harvesting going on, and they're going to do some trail reroutes in that area. And so we're working closely with the Recreation Department to ensure, again, activities in Boggy Draw have minimal impacts to the users out there. Any questions?
I don't have any.
No questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we are very happy to see the sun shining today. It's been a long winter and early spring at Mesa Verde National Park. I'm Casey Cook Collins. I'm the park superintendent for both Mesa Verde and Yucca House. So even this morning, we had a rock fall happen at the entrance to the tunnel on the park road, and a large boulder took out a portion of the historic stonework that's at the head wall of the tunnel. So it's an active time for geology right now. So we're melting and we're having rocks fall, so we're doing a good job of warning visitors about those hazards. So just a little bit about how the visitation has been shaping up. We're down about 34% year to date for visitation at the park, but we're creeping up. So we started out at the end of January down 50% over the prior January. So as the weather's getting better, we're seeing an increase in visitation. And so we're on the precipice of our main visitor season, but that also overlaps with our construction season. So I'm going to throw out a few dates here for things that are going on. So yesterday, April 10th, the Mesa Top Loop and the Sun Temple Loop were closed for completion of the paving work that we started the last, 2 seasons ago. We'll be doing the final layer of asphalt on that. We expect that closure will last 4 to 6 weeks, but the Mesa Top Loop should be open before Memorial Day. So if the weather keeps holding, we're hoping that it would be well before Memorial Day that we'd be able to open that back up. Of course, Cliff Palace Loop is open now. There'll be a short closure for that at some point. We've got a drainage issue that we need to fix on that, but that's going to be a short-term closure. On April 19th, the Farview Lodge will be opening back up. That's its normal time frame. And then on April 28th, the Moorfield Village and Campground is going to open. Something that's not happening this year is the limited off-season camping at the campground there, because we still have several feet of snow covering the entire campground. So we're going to have to wait until we can get that opened up per normal for Aramark to operate that. May 1st would be the normal opening of Wetherell Mesa and access to the sites out there. But because we're going to be replacing the visitor contact station out there, we need to leave Wetherell Mesa closed for the entire season. That road is narrow, and all of the construction vehicles going back and forth in terms of demolishing the old contact station and then the construction of the new one. The timeline for construction and all of that is such that by the time it's expected to be done, we'd be into October, which is when we tend to close Wetherell Mesa anyway. So that's going to put more pressure on the other areas of the park. But Wetherell Mesa really helped out the last 2 seasons when we were doing so much paving work on Chapin Mesa. So I guess it gets its turn to rest. May 11th, the Chapin Mesa Museum's going to reopen. You know, that's been closed for several years. We had an HVAC project that we were waiting to get done, and so that's done now, and we're excited to open that back up. And then tours will resume for Cliff Palace and Balcony House starting May 14th. And as per the last several years. All of the tickets for those are offered through recreation.gov, and they're available 14 days in advance. So for that first May 14th date that tours are available, folks can go online and get tour tickets starting on April 30th. May 26th, the Spruce Tree Terrace will open. That's the food service and gift shop. That's at Chapin Mesa. The Farview Terrace has been open all winter across the middle part of the day. So we're seeing that increase. And then we've got a pavement preservation project that's going to start on the Park Road. That's going to ramp up in May and take place throughout the summer because of the length of the road. And so there will be traffic control with traffic holds of between 15 and 30 minutes. And the work on the Big Hill, you know, I've reported on that to you a number of times, but the sub-excavation and the paving work on the Big Hill is going to be delayed in terms of its start until sometime after June 21st, because we have to take into account the golden eagle nesting possibilities. So that part will happen at that point, and there will be there should be one lane open on the Big Hill when we do that work under traffic control. So we won't be needing to close both lanes. That's my understanding. Any questions on our calendar of those projects and so forth?
No.
Okay. I did want to let you know about where we are with the Spruce Tree House Alcove Arch Stabilization Environmental Assessment. The 30-day public comment for that just closed yesterday. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what we got. Just a quick bit of background. The Spruce Tree House cliff dwelling, it was closed in 2015 due to safety issues, and it's taken us several years to prepare an environmental assessment to look at what might be done in terms of stabilizing the sandstone arch that sits at the front of the alcove. So the cliff dwelling is in the alcove, and then there's a separate sandstone arch that is at the very front of that alcove, and it had been cleaving off large rocks and so forth, and that's what precipitated the closure in 2015. So, the issue with that arch has been known since, it's been a challenge to the preservation of Spruce Tree House since 1909, and so the Park Service has done various things to try to reduce the amount of damage from moisture trickling in between the arch and the alcove. In the 1960s, the Park Service installed a series of bolts to try to attach the arch more firmly to the rest of the alcove. That treatment is at or getting close to what we believe its useful life is, and so that is where the development of a project to look at a different treatment came up. So the Park Service is proposing to stabilize the arch by installing a series of rock bolts at different angles to better attach the arch to the alcove. And so there will be up to 75 of those rock bolts that would be 20 feet in length and installed at different angles. And then there'd be an additional number of shorter bolts that would be attached, and there'd be some removal of some vegetation and some of the rocks that look like they would be coming down towards the front of the cliff dwelling as well. So that's what's being proposed. No treatment to the actual archaeological site or cultural site would be done as part of this project. It's just focused on the geology there. So for the EA, there were 3 alternatives that were analyzed. One was the no action alternative, so no treatment of the alcove arch, and visitation to the site would not be resumed, so it would remain closed. Alternative B is the preferred alternative, and that was to stabilize the arch and restore public visitation to what we were allowing prior to the 2015 closure. And then alternative C was to stabilize the arch, to do the treatment, but then not open the cliff dwelling to public access again. So as of late yesterday, or I think it was this morning that we checked, there were 41 commenters during the 30-day public review period, and most of them were not substantive comments. They were mainly sort of votes, preferences being expressed for one of the 3 alternatives. And the way it shook out is that 88% of the respondents favored stabilizing the arch and allowing public visitation, 10% favor the no action alternative, so to do nothing but to keep it closed, and then 2% favor stabilizing the arch but keeping the cliff dwelling closed to public visitation. So that's where we came out with that. And then the next steps will be the analysis of the comments, which shouldn't take that long given what we got. And then we will be preparing the final plan and the decision document, and we expect that to be completed sometime this summer. So if the decision is to move forward with the stabilization contracting, the work will take place this fall or winter, and would happen probably, well, potentially late winter, early next spring. So that's where we are with that environmental assessment. Are there any questions or anything you need to ask about that?
I don't have any questions specifically. It just seems like our window of opportunity to work up there for the road crew specifically seems like it gets shorter and shorter every year. And with the damage on the road this year and rocks, like you said, falling, it's even going to be shorter probably. But just to remind everybody in the public, specifically everybody that lives here, if you guys don't visit the park or frequent it at least once a year, I recommend that you do that, because every time I go up there, I see something else or something different, and it's really it's a great place right here in our backyard, just like the trails and everything else we have here. It's a pretty unique spot. So if you haven't visited in a while, I recommend you take a weekend and go visit the park.
Thank you. And it's our pleasure and privilege to protect it for everyone here and to host you there. Thanks.
All right. Okay.
A couple more years, you'll be able to get one of those park passes.
Yeah. Well, when is that? These guys keep kidding me.
62.
I'm the young kid here, so.
62.
62 years. Oh, man.
What did you say it was?
62.
62.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move right along to our unfinished business. First of all, we have a decision, gentlemen, for the Mesa Verde Gardeners. They were in here yesterday, and they had a request to use the parking lot that the farmers market uses for one weekend to do their annual seed sale, and they would vacate it after that. So it's just a one-time issue, and it doesn't conflict with the farmer's market because the farmer market is a week later. So, brief synopsis.
I'm agreeable.
Okay, well,
All right.
do you want to make that in a
I
formal?
don't think we need a motion, do we?
I don't know that you really need a motion on this, but if you want to do one, you can.
Well, then if we don't have to, then Travis, you can give them the direction to let them know that they can use it that weekend prior to the operation of the farmer's market.
May 27th.
Okay, then we have a discussion of the possible signing of the Communities That Care contract. This was from Public Health. Ian, you have it displayed. I'll let you go ahead and talk about this one.
Yeah, so I looked at this. This is just an extension of the contract or the funding for the Communities That Care program. It's basically identifying behavioral health needs in the community, and there's a whole system that the health department goes through to do that. I don't know the details and the day-to-day of the project, but the terms in this contract are identical to the terms in the previous contract. I looked through the contract. There are no legal issues or concerns, and so I think this is just in talking with Bobby Locke, this is a good program that the health department has had a lot of success with, and so her recommendation was to move forward with the program, and from a legal standpoint, there's no issues.
Okay. Gentlemen?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I move to approve this contract amendment number 2, 2022 star 0154, amendment number 2 between the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and Montezuma County Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept and sign contract amendment number 2, 2022-0154, between the Colorado Department of Public Health and the Board of County Commissioners. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, next. We have a discussion as it is for an opposition resolution on Senate Bill 23-213. We had a urgent meeting that we had last week on Wednesday with CCI to discuss this bill. I had Commissioners Lindsay and our attorney and our administrator on this call with me. CCI did vote 75% to oppose this bill, and they asked if we had anybody that had a resolution, please send them forward so that as this goes to committee, they would have more leverage to hopefully get something done with this bill. And with that, Ian, I'm going to let you give a little bit more of your language as it refers to the resolution here.
Yes, so this is just a resolution setting forth the BOCC's opposition to this Senate Bill 23-213. I think the overarching problem with this bill, as I understood it at the CCI meeting and after reviewing the bill, is it really allows the state to incur on zoning decisions in the counties. Historically, zoning's been something that's been reserved for the counties and the municipalities. Certainly this bill would have more an effect on the municipalities, but could conceivably have impacts on county areas as well. What it would allow is for the state to upzone certain areas, which would allow for the development of affordable housing. The big problem with this bill is it's a significant incursion on county rights to govern zoning. And, as we've seen, the Colorado Constitution and statutes for a long time have allowed counties to have that power. If this legislation passes, it's going to remove a piece of that power from the counties, and certainly a big piece of that power from the municipalities. When you think about law and you think about legal doctrines and precedents, precedent is a big deal. And when you start to cede a little bit of power to a larger government, be it a state government or federal government, you get onto a slippery slope. And I think that a fundamental principle of CCI, and I know a principle that has been supported and upheld by Montezuma County for a long time, is maintaining local control. You guys are accountable to the citizens. You guys answer to the citizens in a way that state representatives maybe don't. And so that's the whole idea behind this resolution. It's basically opposing this legislation on the idea that it's an unfair incursion into rights that have been reserved for the counties.
Something else that I would like to add too is at CCI we take 4 positions. One is to amend, one is to oppose, one is to support. And here, with the way the legislature is structured this year, we've taken a lot of amend positions because we're trying to get some of the language changed in some of these bills. However, this is just a bad bill. This makes absolutely no sense. CML is definitely opposed to it. It's going to affect the municipalities greater than it's going to affect the counties to begin with. However, it just opens the door to come after the counties as soon as this is passed, like things that we've seen in the past. So again, we strongly oppose this, and 75% of the counties at that meeting Wednesday also opposed it. So with that, gentlemen,
I would move that we approve a resolution in opposition to statewide land use and zoning preemptions in State Bill 23-213. Do you have a resolution number?
7.
7? That would be resolution number 7-2023.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept resolution number 7, 2023, a resolution in opposition to statewide land use and zoning preemptions in Senate Bill 23-213. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next on our agenda is we have a discussion utilizing road impact fees As Rob displays, last week, we have a shortfall of $512,000 to get the road work done that we have set forward this year. We did check, Travis and I were able to meet with finance and Road and Bridge, and all of the criteria meets the impact fees, and we have, out of those impact fees that we can pull from, we have $529,589, which we're only short $512,000. So again, roads become more and more expensive. You can see that we had 52.8 for our water damage out on P Road, guardrail on H, and those are just some of the things that have popped up, and that doesn't mean that that's going to be the end of what pops up for this year. So with that, gentlemen, those are impact fees collected for the roads. We have the funds to disperse them in the manner. Further discussion?
No.
I don't have any.
I would so move we utilize the road impact fees for the road improvements as presented from the road department.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to use the road impact fees as presented by the road department. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have also a discussion today. We discussed it yesterday on the possible signing of a Board of Adjustments resolution. Ian has put together a resolution for us if we choose to move in this route, which would appoint the county commissioners as the Board of Adjustments. We did have a conversation yesterday, and it's kind of back and forth, so I'll let you gentlemen speak to that, or Ian, I'll let you speak to it.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to speak to in terms of the resolution. I think we've discussed it at length in the last couple workshops. I just wanted to note that the resolution that's in front of you today, there's just a couple small changes. It's basically the date has been changed from the one that's up on the screen, and then there's also a typo in the second paragraph that's been fixed. But I just wanted to get those dates consistent with the date. You know, just so everybody out here understands what this resolution would do is it would appoint 3 members to the zoning board of adjustment here in the county. Generally speaking, the statutes require that 1 term expire each year for a zoning board of adjustment. You can appoint anywhere between 3 and 5 members. What this resolution does is because we're appointing people for the first time, it's staggered terms for the first time, just to allow 1 term to expire each year. So this sets out that Commissioner Copenhafer would be appointed to a 3-year term, Commissioner Lindsay would be appointed to a 2-year term, Commissioner Candelaria would be appointed to a 1-year term. You guys can obviously flip-flop that if you want to, but that was the way it fell, and then the idea would be after that first term expires, then you would re-up for additional 3 years.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Anything else to add?
Pretty well hashed this out.
And this would be Resolution 8, 2023, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, Resolution 8-2023. I move to approve Resolution number 8-2023, appointing members to the Zoning Board of Adjustments and adopting general rules for the board for Montezuma County.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to accept resolution number 8, 2023, a resolution appointing members of the Zoning Board of Adjustments and adopting general rules for the board. Any further discussion? I think we've hashed this one out pretty hard. Tough. I'm struggling with this one, but I know kind of where we're going to go. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If you don't want to sign it, don't sign it.
No, I'll sign it. I just, aye.
That sounded kind of weak.
Well, I just,
He's thinking about that card he's gonna get, 62.
like we talked about, it's a double-edged sword.
Oh, it definitely is.
it's a double-edged
I
sword.
mean, we went through the same issues back when this bill first came through and set up that we had to have a Board of Adjustments. We went through these same discussions back then.
Okay, moving right along, we have a discussion of the possible signing of the Mesa Verde National Park Spruce Tree House recommendations letter. That's in front of us. I think she did a good job this morning of kind of explaining what's going on up there at the park. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Gentlemen?
I would so move, we signed a letter of support for the Mesa Verde National Park Spruce Tree House.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to sign the letter of support for the Mesa Verde National Park Spruce Tree House to public visitation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to go to our attorney's report, and we have a possible discussion of the signing of an MOU.
That's correct, and Mr. Dobry's here. He's going to come down and chat about the MOU as well. But before we get there, I just have a couple brief updates for you guys. Last week, there was a meeting with the NCA Steering Committee, just an update on where that NCA legislation is. It has been introduced in the Senate and the House. At this point, there are not hearing dates set, but a Senate hearing may happen in May. Word is that a House hearing may happen before that. When those hearings are set, that committee is going to be looking for folks to go back and testify in support of this bill. And so when that time comes, I'll certainly keep you guys updated. I know Commissioner Copenhaver's on that steering committee as well. And so I don't know whether there's any interest from anybody in this group in going back to testify, but that is going to be something that they're going to be looking for. And so, again, I'll keep you updated there. The other thing, you know, I think I pretty much talked about it with the Senate Bill 23-213. I was in that meeting last week. You know, I just want to reiterate, I think, you know, our country was set up in a very specific way with the Constitution and then the state constitution. And the idea really is that representatives represent the people, and local government was a big part of what our country was founded on. Like I said just a second ago, I think that it's so important to maintain that local control. And I think that what really shone through to me in reading that legislation and sitting through that meeting is this is a serious incursion on local control. And if you allow those sorts of incursions and those incursions continue, pretty soon the power of local governments erode. So again, I just appreciated the opportunity to sit through that meeting and listen in on that legislation and review that legislation and just wanted to comment on that. The last thing I have to report, we have an MOU in front of you for the Opportunity Now grant. You know, I guess I'll start with Mr. Dobry, just kind of, he can give you an overview of what this grant is. And then I drafted the memorandum of understanding. We can talk about that once you guys get a general overview of the program.
So the Opportunity Now grant is a Colorado state grant that is basically focused on workforce development. And for Montezuma County, that role falls to, it's part of our economic development coordinator's job is working on workforce development. It's in the roadmaps plan that was developed is to help there. And kind of the county's role in that is to coordinate and convene. And this is a perfect opportunity for that because this grant is about pulling together industry and education, and someone has to convene that. And we put in a letter of intent to apply. It was accepted. I know Jessica has spoken with you about that a few times. And for this grant, one of the requirements of the grant is a memorandum of understanding, because you're working with, in this case, a school system and the creative district to develop a program. It's just to lay out all the roles of who does what. And this will be a pilot program with the eventual goal, and hopefully there's further stages of this grant process, but that would help us build out this program to the other school systems in the county as well. What this grant will do is, one, we'll be able to recoup some of the the economic development coordinator's time that will be spent on this. Also, the indirect costs in the grant will cover all of our office costs, my time and Phaedra's time, that kind of thing for administering the grant. So we're not taking on any additional costs for the county, which I think is a great thing to be looking at for that. And yeah, I guess if you just had any other questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
So what this grant is ultimately going to do is it's going to seek to, the program's going to seek to connect students in the Mencos School District with local artisans in the art community, and in hopes of getting vocational training. That's what this grant is intended to do. One of the really interesting things about this grant application was one of the requirements was that an MOU be submitted outlining the roles and responsibilities of the different parties that are involved. Now, what's interesting about it is the funding still hasn't come down. A lot of the day-to-day details of the operation have yet to be established. And so, in some ways, the requirement to have an MOU at this point, in my mind, was putting the cart before the horse a little bit. But at the same time, that was a requirement of this grant. And so, what I did is I drafted an MOU with pretty broad parameters for the roles and responsibilities of the different parties, and who it would be is Montezuma County, the Mencos School District, the Mencos Creative District, and then Mencos Farm to Spaceship LLC. Really what's contemplated is this is a very loose agreement for the different entities to, in essence, cooperate with Montezuma County. Montezuma County will administer the grant funding, and then try to get this pilot program set up. You know, it's certainly a unique MOU in that there's not a lot of teeth to it, but that's because we're still in this very early stage of developing this program, and it didn't make a lot of sense to develop the program fully until we had an understanding of what kind of funding we were going to get and what exactly this is going to look like. I don't know if you have anything to add, Robert.
Yeah, the other thing I was just going to add is that as you're saying, usually we would probably be putting this MOU together once the funding was awarded. And I anticipate that there will be an addendum once, assuming the funding is awarded, the funding is awarded, to tighten some things up. But at this preliminary stage, we need it for the grant application. So that's why it's coming to you now.
So I have one question, because I've never heard of this. What is Mencos Farm to Spaceship LLC?
Actually, it's just Farm to Spaceship. They're a consultant based out of Denver that works with creative organizations to basically help build programming to connect creative students to creative organizations to create job pathways into the future.
Okay, so it's just Farm
Just
to
Farm to
Spaceship.
Spaceship,
The Mencos should be deleted?
Yeah, we should delete Mencos just from that, yeah.
Okay. Questions?
No. You asked the one I was going to ask.
Questions? I just never heard of it before. I mean, I think we're pretty aware of Dolores Mencos Cortez.
Absolutely, yeah.
You hear a Farm to Spaceship, that's kind of way out there.
Yeah.
One just brief comment that I would make, and it doesn't necessarily pertain to the material in this MOU, but I mean, certainly this looks like a great program. It's going to connect local students with artisans. You know, I would just comment that I think that there's a lot of different vocational things that students can be connected with, and I think it's super important that you know, yeah, this is a great program, but I think that we need to continue to look at other ways to connect to maybe some of the traditional vocations, be it diesel mechanics or you know, all the different vocations that were around. For instance, when I was in high school, down at the VOTEC, and so this is sort of a niche, and I think it's great that this funding could come through and this program could develop. But you know, we certainly don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into what is sort of a very niche area with the arts.
Well, and the other thing I can kind of say to that is Jessica and I on Friday, we visited Pagosa Springs, and they have a pathway program that's focused on building, and I think that's something that we with the school district should be looking at in the future, building the other kind of jobs that people can have. Not everyone needs to go to college, and to be able to have jobs that can keep young people in our community working, successful, independent. And this program, because Mancos already has an entrepreneurship pathway, the idea is to kind of tie in with that, is that it's about building your own thing and using your own creativity to learn how to build a business, and hopefully as part of that, teach kids that the creative piece isn't the only piece. The business piece is important, and you need to be able to build a successful business as part of that. So that's some of that workforce training is part of this as well.
Okay. Commissioner?
I don't have any problem.
Okay.
You okay? I move to sign this memorandum of understanding between Montezuma County, the Mancos School District, the Mancos Creative District, the Mancos the Farm to Spaceship LLC, as
Second.
presented.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go. I was just gonna say as presented, so.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign the memorandum of understanding outlining the Mancos School District, the Mancos Creative District, and the Farm to Spaceship LLC. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Rob.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay, Ian, you're good to go?
That's all for my report.
Okay. Our county administrator's report, Travis.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot to report, other than good conversations with Patrick Rondinelli. We're going to be working on our strategic plan starting next Monday from 9 to 1, so we're going to have a little late go in the workshop. You should have received an email from him to fill out some questionnaires. So obviously, this winter presented some challenges for notifications to employees. So we are starting to look at a new notification system for letting them know if there's a flood, if offices are closed, late starts. We looked at the 3CX, but it wasn't going to work. So we're looking at a new system for that. Meeting with CCI, I don't want to keep rehashing the Senate bill, but I want to ditto what Ian said. It's not just this bill. It seems like every bill that comes across, the state or federal government wants to just keep hammering local governments. So, and that's about it.
Okay, very good. With that, we'll go to Commissioner Copenafer.
Last week, I wasn't able to attend the NCA meeting, but I did attend the Central Committee meeting for the Republican Party to give them an update basically on the NCA and a perspective as to why we went with the NCA recommendation. And they had me and Larry Don give our different perspectives on the NCA, because people were wanting to know why the county was pushing and trying to get the NCA developed. So we both give our different perspectives about what's going to happen there and what could happen in the future. So that was the main thing I did last Thursday. Got a lot of stuff going on this week. Got MVI this afternoon. I got Southwest tomorrow afternoon and Southwest Thursday morning. So be busy this week. That's about all I have.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Yes, I have city council tonight, and also I set in a CCI meeting. And for all of you out there, you need to keep a close watch on this particular bill. This will tell you how the state legislature is going to perform towards local governments in the future. In that meeting, not only did they reference planning and zoning, but there was a lot, the word water was thrown in there. They were going to holistically look at water management. What that means, I don't have any idea. But when they start throwing terms like that into these conversations and bills, we really need to watch what's going on. When CML, the City Municipal League, they are opposing this real heavily. And for us to kind of work together as CCI and CML is kind of an odd occasion, because a lot of times we butt heads with them. But we're pretty much in uniform step with them on this one, because it has a lot of impact coming to our communities. We put in a lot of time, money, effort, tums and rolades into planning and zoning in these communities. And for that to be taken away is just not acceptable. I'm sorry. And like Ian said, this is mandated in our Constitution. Why they want to go against that, I guess they're just testing the waters. So there's a lot of other organizations that are opposing this. So I ask you guys, keep an eye on this. Watch this. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Get the ramble on.
No, that's fine. There'll be further discussion Thursday and Friday as as I'm going to CCI this week on this, amongst other bills that we are looking at. And as we start approaching the final hours of the legislative session, this is the kind of stuff that we see creeping in, and it's even more critical to pay attention to it. So I won't go over any more of that, but that was part of a Wednesday meeting that we had. I went to the STAC meeting, State Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. Thursday morning, a lot of discussion of what's going on around the state as far as road work, and just the devastation of what we've had throughout the entire state because of the severe winter that we've had. The state's gonna have a lot of work to do on all of their road work. I did also attend a NACO, National Association of Counties Transportation meeting immediately right after, which was one of the things I brought up to Doug about the Eagle view as far as what they're doing on their imaging for the GIS. Had a legislative briefing Friday. It was a short meeting with CCI. No votes were taken. Kind of getting us ready for this week as I get ready to go up there Thursday and Friday. Had a great Easter weekend. You know, I don't want to forget Easter. I think that, you know, we look at holidays and sometimes people forget what Easter is really all about, and I don't want to forget that and just let everyone know I hope you had a great Easter and realize what it really is for, and not just a Easter bunny hopping down the road. We did have our workshop yesterday. We went over those under unfinished business today, and that pretty much took care of everything that we talked about in our workshop yesterday. The Dolores meeting last night was able to give a quick and brief update of the road projects that we have coming up, along with getting several texts from the Road and Bridge Department, and then dealing with what they have issues over there as they're trying to sandbag houses to keep water from running in. They've got some drainage issues over there for sure, and hopefully with some of the mapping that you're seeing on the GIS that Doug and Nolan are working on, they'll be able to identify those and move forward to some actual fixes in the future instead of what's happened now. So they did sign their declaration for a disaster last night. It was presented to us. We felt to hold off on it, but the Dolores Town Board did sign a disaster for them last night. And with that is all I have.
One more point for everybody out there. I'd like to thank all the volunteers that were over there sandbagging and helping put sandbags in Dolores. They were over there on a holiday. They were over there yesterday, and they're over there again today. So everybody out there, thank you very much for helping out over at Dolores. With that, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn this April 11th BOCC meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.